watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
So I got a call that said, this is Susan Bailey. And I said, yeah, but I'm sorry, I don't know a Susan Bailey. She goes, I'm Henry Aaron's secretary. And I went, yeah. She goes, Henry would like to talk to you. I said, yeah, okay. And he said, how would you like to fly down to Sarasota and look at our pictures? And I said, I would love to. He said, well, when can you do it? Jokingly, I said, tomorrow. He goes, okay, we'll take care of that. I'll meet you at the airport in Atlanta. Susan will have the arrangements. And then I get on a plane with Hank Aaron and fly down to Sarasota. He offers me a job, and I said, well, what team do you want me to manage? He goes, no, he wants you to be a pitching coach.
Hi, this is Phil Necro. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Most guys throw it this way. The ball back in here, hands come around, and these two fingers come into the ball, and stiff wristed, no follow throw, and just a little up and goes in the bat. I hope there's no rotation on. The ball comes in there and doesn't bother. It doesn't never do the same thing twice.
This is Kyle Wright, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
One of my favorite moments for your career as of right now is actually this past week. It was a show of confidence by Brian Snicker. He left you in the game after bases were loaded. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it was really cool. I went back and I saw that clip on Instagram several times. I'll be honest, I went back and I watched it numerous times. Kind of gave me chills a little bit. It was just really cool. I was kind of lost my command a little bit there. Still made some good pitches, but was definitely getting a little tired. So whenever he said, basically left me in the game, I feel like that kind of gave me what I needed to get me over the hump to make a good pitch, get a ground ball back to me, and get out of that inning.
This is Matt Olson. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond. Yeah, it's a pretty cool experience. Not everybody gets this opportunity to kind of set up their roots and be somewhere long term that they grew up and have family and friends. So it happened pretty quick there in spring training, and it was just an opportunity that my wife and I and my family thought that we couldn't pass up. So just jumped on it, and it's been a blast.
Says, Chief, why don't you race Ralph Garr? I said, okay. Said, Ralph Garr wants to race you too. So we started on the first base line on the outfield line. We started, bam, took off running. I beat him by 3 foot.
Mike Never's here. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
I'm Kelsey Wingert, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Hey, this is Andrew Jones. You're watching On Deck with Tyler.
Hello, baseball fans. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Welcome into On Deck. I'm Tyler Redmond. As always, thank you guys so much for checking out the channel. I do appreciate it. While you're here, do me a favor. Like this video, subscribe to this channel, and of course, hit the bell for notifications so that you know the next time we go live, when I drop new videos, whenever I do anything, you'll know it. Make sure to hit the bell so you can be a part of the community that we have here at On Deck, a community that is very active in the chat right now. I appreciate you guys. Obviously, it's pretty easy to be active in the chat after a series like this, after a game like today. So what I'm going to do is we're going to just quickly go through what I thought was the biggest highlights of this series, the biggest takeaways from this series, and then we'll get into some more general topics of the Atlanta Braves. Important note, the Braves are right now currently 1.5 games back in the division behind the Mets. They're making their way to first place, and it's something to be excited about. So just for a second, let's go through the series with the Pirates that we just finished. Of course, a sweep of this series, a sweep of the Pirates for the entire year, which is a very big deal. We're going to kick it off with Game 1. The biggest question that I had leaving Game 1, if there was one, was had Jake Odorizzi possibly turned a corner? Has he really figured himself out? Because if you remember, his first couple of appearances hadn't been that great this year for the Braves. But then last week it was said during the broadcast that he had figured something out during the rain delay. And we kept hearing that, Odorizzi has figured something out. He keeps saying that he figured something out. And then against the Pirates, he proceeded to pitch 6 innings, scattering 4 hits and striking out 7. He limited them to 1 run. And I know what you're thinking, Tyler. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Tyler, it's the Pirates. And at any other time, I would just as quickly go to that thought because that's typically what it is. You face good hitting, you're going to have bad results as a pitcher, right? And you face bad hitting, you're going to have pretty good results. But I'm more hesitant to do that this time because of what he had said leading up to this series. I figured something out. And he was better in Houston than his first couple of appearances in Atlanta. So I do think he has figured something out, but I do need to see some more solid appearances by Jake Odorizzi before I'm completely bought in to the idea of him starting every 5th day for the rest of the season. I should mention that the bullpen did hold it down for the final 3 innings of Game 1, and the Braves took the lead in the 5th, courtesy of a 2-run homer by Michael Harris. More on him later. Game number 2. The offense in this game, of course, popped off similar to the way it did today. 5 runs in the 5th inning. Everybody involved. Darno homered, Contreras, Harris, Grissom all singled. Grossman as well for an RBI. Bottom of the order, by the way, has been something that I have neglected to talk about, but that goes no longer. The bottom of the order for the Braves has been phenomenal. I'm talking about it in this game right here. Again, Harris doubles, Grissom singles for an RBI, Grossman singles for an RBI. That just feeds the top of the order where Acuna was to single. Swanson knocked a runner in. Riley knocked a runner in. And that's a common trend in this series. The bottom of the order feeding the top. And the bottom of the order, guys, it cannot go without saying how great Michael Harris has done. It can't go without saying how great Vaughn Grissom has done. We've talked extensively about them because, of course, they're rookies. But how good has Robbie Grossman been since the trade deadline? Somehow or another, it always happens that AA finds a way to find these guys at the trade deadline, and they pop off for the rest of the year. And Grossman hasn't done anything, quite, stunning like hitting, just a ton of homers, but he has done a great job at getting on base. And the entire bottom of the order, again, and, that's credit to Alex Anthopoulos for getting Robbie Grossman at the deadline, but also credit to the rookies who we have, brought up through our system. They have shown out. They showed out in this series. They showed out in Game 2. And it can't go without saying the pitching in this series. Max Fried pitched that game, and he did great as well. 8 innings. And all that does is save the pen. In a similar fashion today, Kyle Wright came out and pitched 8 innings as well. Going into today's game, Game 3, Kyle Wright was sitting at 15 wins. And that is notable because that was one behind the National League lead. It was one behind the Major League lead in total. And that puts Kyle Wright tied with Justin Verlander and Tony Gonsolin for leading Major League Baseball in wins. And I know wins is kind of an old stat. It's not a stat that's focused on anymore because, wins don't matter. I've heard all that because of all the new analytics. But guys, I'm not buying into that. When your team can count on you to have 16 wins when you're starting on the mound, that means something. And I saw a little bit of this conversation in the chat, and I think there's some truth to it. It's time to start talking about Kyle Wright in the Cy Young conversation. I mean, it really is. He has had a great year. Just a phenomenal year. And we talked to Kyle at the beginning of the season, and you can check this interview out on the channel. We talked to him early in the season about just his, he had a lot of success early on, and we wanted to know if it was going to continue. I asked him directly, what are you doing different this year? All those questions. You can find that on the channel. But it's good to see that it has resulted in a season like this. I mean, this is a major step forward for him, not only for this year, but for his entire career, and it's something that can't go unnoticed. Again, he pitched excellently today. That was not the only highlight. Of course, Contreras hit a 2-run homer. The offense popped off, in the 4th inning, in the 8th inning. Matt Olson hits a grand slam that goes out of the stadium. I mean, those are things that are great, and I know, again, you're going to hear, it's just the Pirates. I'm sure Frank the Tank is out there right now saying it's just the Pirates. Guys, at the end of the day, it's a major league team. The Braves are putting bat on ball. They're doing stuff the right way, and it was an exciting watch. I'm sure, some of you guys were either keeping up with it or hopefully watching it, some of you. It was a great game, a day game. The Braves, I keep hearing that the Braves don't do well in day games. Well, they did well today. It's something to take note of. I do want to mention before we go any further, the Braves are again 1.5 games back behind the Mets for first place in the National League East. But I can't not go without saying that O'Neal Cruz, if you're watching the game today, I'm sure you noticed, 122.4 miles per hour off the bat. It is the highest recorded hard hit ball in the StatCast era since they started recording it. Yeah, he hit it on the screws. I was watching it live and I just knew it was gone the moment he hit it. Luckily, Kyle Wright was able to keep it in the park. It would have tied the game at the time, but it did not. So, again, if you haven't seen it, you ought to go watch it. The Major League Baseball is putting it everywhere right now. I'm sure you'll be able to find it. He hit it on the ropes. So, just wanted to mention that because it was one of the highlights of today. Maybe not for the Braves, but it was was a sight to see for sure. All right, so let's talk about some other topics around Major League Baseball. And before we go any further, I do want to tell you to make sure to like this video, subscribe to this channel, and of course hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay updated with everything we have going on here. Again, I'm going to answer as many comments as I can once I get done with my little monologue here, because I do have some things I want to touch on. But you can speed that up by super chatting. That is how I respond to you directly, and I also try to give you a little bit more of an answer before I just move on. But super chats do help, likes do help, and of course comments do as well. So get your comments in, get your likes in, and of course, just continue to support the channel. We really do appreciate it. All right, let's talk about something that I think we need to. Mike Soroka. We talked about him a lot last week. We went and saw him in High A Rome. I want to talk about him because, I mentioned Jake Odorizzi earlier, and I mentioned that he was possibly turning a corner. Maybe he truly has figured something out. But during the struggling period of Jake Odorizzi, during the time where he struggled, there was a lot of there was a lot of talk about other options. Kyle Muller came to mind, Bryce Elder came to mind. But the one guy that kept coming up that we have a lot of question marks next to is Mike Soroka. And Mike Soroka has all the talent in the world, but at the same time, there's still a lot of questions there. Of course, the torn Achilles. He's been gone 2 years. We all know. In his first appearance, I already told you this, but you're going to hear it again. 4 innings pitched, 1 hit, no walks, 8 strikeouts. You guys have been commenting. You guys have been asking, what is the update on Soroka since that happened? I haven't had a chance to tell you, but I'm going to tell you now. First of all, I did tell you that I thought he would more than likely skip Double-A, go straight to Triple-A, and stay around the Atlanta area. I didn't think the Braves were going to want to send him out of state because, honestly, I thought the Braves were going to want to keep a close eye on him. Sure enough, they promoted him to Triple-A a couple days later after I told you that, and then proceeded to send Alex Anthopoulos out to Gwinnett himself to get eyes on Mike Soroka. So I thought that was a big deal. Does it say anything? Sure. It says that the Braves are interested. I'm sure they're considering him as an option either as a starter or a bullpen piece before the end of the year. So it does matter that Double-A was there. But beyond that, what did he do in that appearance? That's what you want to know. 3 1/3 innings pitched, not as far into the game. He did give up 6 hits and a walk, did not receive any strikeouts, and he gave up 2 earned runs. Not exactly the performance we saw in High A in Rome, but that's not what's important here. What's important here is that, first of all, he is throwing the target amount of pitches and feeling good afterward, because that's what we really want to know. We want to know, is he healthy? It seems to be that he has done fine with that. Beyond that, AAA and High A Rome are 2 very different things. They're miles apart in competition level. And he tore up High A Rome. That was, and we knew this going in. This isn't, anything profound, but that was an attempt to build up his confidence. The dude's been gone 2 years. He needs to know that he can still pitch against professional hitters. He found that out, and he did well. Now he's got to develop. How do you do that? You play the best players you can. And right now that's in AAA, and he's able to do that. And, the Braves are keeping close tabs on Soroka. So am I. We're going to keep following him. I expect him to have at least 2 to 3 more appearances in Gwinnett before ever trying to make it back to Major League Baseball. They don't want to waste his options. And to be honest with you, they want to make sure he's healthy. They don't want to push him past, a certain limit, I'm sure. Honestly, to tell you the truth, it really just feels good to be talking about Mike Soroka pitching again, because it's been so long since we've really talked about Mike Soroka in this light. It's always been, could he come back? He is back. He is pitching on a professional baseball mound, and he is making his way back. That's what's important here. Whenever he takes the mound in Major League Baseball again, we'll, of course, be watching. We are supporters of Mike Soroka at this channel, and, I don't want to hear anything else in the chat. But he is, you know what? I do think he is a viable option for the Braves to go to, either for a bullpen piece or a starter. Right now, he's starting games in Gwinnett. We'll see how that goes. It may be that he's not quite ready to do that by the end of the year, but he could be a bullpen piece for a long relief. He could be a bullpen piece for 1 inning. Whatever he can give, it's additional to the Braves' plan. This is not something that the Braves were counting on for this year. Obviously, they've won a lot in August without him, and they've done well without him. It's good to hear that he is doing this safely. It's good to know that he is developing, and again, he's developing while also, coming back from a major injury. So, good to know that he's on his way back, and we're looking forward to seeing him. So that's the update on Soroka. What about, what happens when all these guys do come back from injury? What happens, right? Because Soroka's not the only one gone. Albies is gone right now. Arcia is gone right now. And with those guys specifically, Albies and Arcia, when they come back, the question remains, what do we do with Vaughn Grissom? And look, Vaughn Grissom has had a great start to his career. Entering play today, he had a .420 average, a .463 on-base percentage, 3 homers, and 10 RBIs. So, yeah, he's doing very well. That being said, you can't keep Ozzie Albies out of the lineup. He's earned that spot, and I don't think you can keep him, off of second base, to tell you the truth. It's been fun to watch Vaughn Grissom. He's had a great start to his career. And again, the bottom of the order has done great things with him in it. And you know what? I think Vaughn has been that spark plug. As much as Harris has done well and been that spark plug at the bottom of the order, I think Vaughn has come in and really added to that in a very positive way. And you know what? I think Ozzie is going to be making his way back in September. So where does Vaughn go? There's always the idea of the DH. Though Travis d'Arnaud and Contreras have sort of split that role alongside their catching duties. When they're not catching, they have been the DH. And I think that has worked well. I think it's kept them, in a routine and kept them having, every day at bats, which I'm sure has helped them. And to be honest with you, I don't necessarily want either one of those bats out of the lineup, especially in the postseason. And you're like, well, of course they wouldn't be out of there in the postseason. Remember, last year, Travis d'Arnaud caught every game of the postseason, every single one. And if that was the case, I don't want Contreras' bat not in the postseason. I don't know that I necessarily want Vaughn Grissom's bat out of the postseason. So to me, the only solution here is to put Vaughn Grissom in left field if he keeps hitting like this. Now, there's a chance that he doesn't continue on this trend. Right now, today he had an 0 for 4 game. Last night, he had 3 hits. There's a chance that, at some point he falls off. We don't know that. We'll only know that when it happens. But for right now, the dude's hitting. And you got to go with the guy who's successful. It may be that Ozzie struggles when he first comes back. We don't know exactly how this situation is going to play out. What we do know is that Vaughn Grissom is here. He is hitting well. And we got to find a spot for him in the lineup. Right now, I think that spot is left field. And, it's going to be tough. But an outfield that consists of Vaughn Grissom, Michael Harris, and Ronald Acuna is a pretty good outfield, at least at the moment. Now, a lot of you are going to go, okay, well, what about Grossman? What about Rosario? Those guys, I think, are honestly suited better for the bench than Vaughn Grissom is. I think the fact that Vaughn Grissom is seeing everyday pitching at the major league level and is getting, like I said about the catchers, a routine amount of at-bats is only going to help him, especially in times like the postseason. And it may be that, we see Vaughn face off against some really good pitching in the postseason, and he's not quite ready for it. At that point, go to Rosario Grossman. But for right now, if he's really just that good, if he's this level player and we got to keep him around, then I think left field is the only option. So that is going to be something that, again, we'll follow. And I know a lot of you are going to ask this question. I've already seen it in the chat, so I'll go ahead and try to answer it. Can Vaughn Grissom play left field? Well, first of all, it's not exactly the most demanding position, right? It's not shortstop, which Vaughn can play. It's not, something that just can't be learned. We saw Riley play that position, in 2019 when Donaldson was in the lineup. We've seen a lot of guys just move to that position. It's not exactly the hardest thing to learn, and being that he is so young, you can adapt to that. If he's going to play next year, he's going to have to find somewhere, and I think left field is a good option for him. He's fast. He can cover a lot of ground. And, guys, I'm going to be honest with you, just to be frank with you, Ozuna played left field. And to tell you the truth, I have more confidence in Vaughn Grissom learning that position than I do Ozuna playing it every day. And I'm not really knocking anybody there. I'm just saying I think Vaughn would be fine in left field. Now, granted, I don't know. I'm not with these guys every day. He might stink in left field. But right now, as an outsider who doesn't know this guy's talents through and through, I think that's the only logical place he can go once Ozzie returns. And it may be that they don't want Ozzie playing second base every day, and you see a platoon there. It may be that they don't want Ozzie in the field just yet because of his ankle. They want to keep him as DH, possibly, though I doubt it. So we will see. But right now, that's kind of where I'm at. And there's a lot of conversations that you can have about Vaughn Grissom after this year. There's plenty of them. Does Dansby re-sign? Is Vaughn Grissom the rightful shortstop if Dansby doesn't come back? There's plenty of those conversations. Those conversations we're going to have to save, till after the season, or at least until Dansby re-signs. Then we'll kind of know what we're dealing with. Right now, we don't. There's plenty of different ways you can go about that, in the future. But for right now, for this year, I think the only viable option, once Ozzie does come back in September, which is soon, by the way, is to put Vaughn in left field, because I don't just see a major fall off happening. Because let's go back to Riley for a second. Back in 2019, this video is actually from that period. This was his first homer. This guy came out and hit 18 homers in his first month, and then we saw that fall off. We saw pitchers adjust to him and figure him out and that kind of thing. But at the same time, we saw the potential there. I don't see the same thing happening with Vaughn Grissom, because this is a guy who just finds a way to get on base. And if that's the case, he's a guy that I really want at the bottom of the order for the Braves, because, again, it feeds the top. Look how well Acuna's doing right now. Look how well Dansby's doing right now. Riley's doing right now. It's because they have guys on base, they're knocking them in, and they're finding a way to win because of that. And they have been great. Really, they have. And, again, we've talked about the whole Dansby-Swanson contract negotiations pretty extensively in past live streams, videos. We've talked about that. But what Vaughn Grissom does do here in that scenario is give the Braves leverage with Dansby's negotiations. And you may not like talking about that. You may not like the idea of Dansby not being back. I don't particularly either. But what it does do is give the Braves the chance to go, hey, Dansby, as much as we want you back, we don't necessarily want to pay you this amount of money when we have Vaughn Grissom in the waiting. So it does do that. I mean, there's a lot of different ways that can go, and we could talk about that more in the future and as time goes on. But for right now, we're going to talk about what you guys want to talk about in the chat. So get your questions in. I already saw a super chat from Jonathan Collins. Thank you for that, buddy. I appreciate it. Do me a favor, though, if you are watching the chat right now, like the video. It really does help. And, of course, subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. It really does help me and help support the channel. And we want to do as many of these live streams as we can, gearing up for the postseason that I do believe the Braves will be in. And I do believe that they will be first place at the way we're going right now. So make sure to do that. Make sure to like again, subscribe to the channel, and, of course, hit the bell for notifications. You guys have been so active in the chat today, and I appreciate it. Jameson tuning in. Blake tuning in. Sean tuning in. Jameson, again, Malik. Malik says Mets fans are scared now. I mentioned Frank the Tank, one of my favorite follows on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and not because it's anything intellectual as much as it is just entertainment for me. If you don't know who Frank the Tank is, he is a Mets fan who, anytime the Mets lose, it's a good watch. You ought to just go check it out. Appreciate it, by the way. John Hatton, I believe you're a new watcher. I appreciate it. First Brave to hit into Allegheny River. Way to go, Matt. Yeah, I'll tell you a story, John, since you brought it up. I was going to talk about this anyway. Matt Olson's Grand Slam today. When I interviewed Matt, if you got in early, you saw the clip of me interviewing Matt Olson. It's on the channel. When I interviewed him off camera, my dad was with me. My dad actually asked him, what would it take to hit it on top of the chop house or over the chop house, out of the stadium at Truist Park? And he kind of looked around and said, oh, it can be done. And ever since, every time he's up to bat, every time he hits a homer, we take a look, especially if it's at Truist Park. But today, that one he hit was solid, and it's fun to watch for sure. Jameson says that was a heck of a grand slam. Yes, it was. Oren Griswold, you bring up a good point that I mentioned earlier. Kyle Wright deserves to be at the top of the Cy Young discussion. I can't agree more. This is a guy who, look, I'll be honest with you, I'm a fan of, mainly because I interviewed him. I like him. He's a nice guy. He's very friendly. He's down to earth. That being said, he's leading Major League Baseball in wins. And look, guys, again, I know wins are not at the top of the mind when it comes to Cy Young conversation. I am well aware in today's modern thinking. That being said, it does mean something, and I think it needs to be looked at. He is leading in that. And to be honest with you, he's had a great year. If nothing else, he has had he would get the most improved award on the Braves right now. He's got a 2.99 ERA on the dot, 16-5 with 147 innings, 144 strikeouts. The dude's been really good, and it's because the Braves have finally let him be himself, in my opinion. But he has been really good this year, and it does not need to go unnoticed. We talked to him about, if you remember, the moment where Brian Snitker asked him, Brian Snitker left him in the game with bases loaded early in the season. And what a moment that was, and just letting him figure it out. And the Braves have they've let him figure it out in the minor leagues. They've let him be himself. And I think we're finally starting to see the results of that for sure. Let's see. Chris Field says, "What's up, Tyler? Good series, and I'm glad to see the Braves are playing small ball while still hitting homers when the opportunities present themselves." You bring that up. It's a very good point, Chris. I appreciate that. Yeah, you're right. They are playing small ball. They're getting on base. And again, I think that starts with these guys. These guys are the key to that. And they're not the only guys doing it. I mean, the whole team got on base today at some point or another. But these guys are really, the fundamental part of that, from a complete schedule, perspective. Not just the Pirates, but before the Pirates, against the Astros, against the Mets. These guys are who I believe are the biggest part of that. And, we've talked a lot about the Braves' schedule. I've seen a lot of guys say that the Braves had an easy August. Let me tell you something. We did a whole live stream about the schedule. It is not an easy schedule. Looking back, it may be because of how well the Braves did during this schedule, but keep in mind, we had to play the Phillies, who were playing really hot at that time. We had to play the Mets, who we lost 4 out of 5 with. We had to play the Red Sox at their home turf. Oh, by the way, we had a doubleheader with the Mets as well. We had to play Miami, a doubleheader on the 14th. Then we had to play the Mets the next day, which we won 3 out of 4 of that series. We had to play the Houston Astros, who were in the World Series last year. And now we're finally getting an easy series, if you want to call it that, with the Pirates at PNC Park. And, of course, we head into St. Louis next, and, of course, the Rockies. We're finally starting to see an easier schedule. And the Mets, you can argue that the Mets had a tough August. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't really look at it. But I would tell you this. The Mets have an easy September, and so do the Braves. The Braves, first off, they face the Rockies, then they face Miami, then the Oakland A's. It doesn't get much easier than those 3 teams. Of course, you got to face Seattle, who have had good moments this year for sure, the Giants, the Phillies, the Nationals, and then Washington again. And then, of course, you have 3 games with the Mets leading into October. So, yeah, here's the thing. People are going to talk about easier schedule. It all evens out. We'll see what the records are at the end of the year. But I'll tell you this, the Braves played really good under a lot of stressful circumstances. They held a lot of tight games, like yesterday, 2-1. They've been able to play really good baseball during a really difficult time for them in August. And no matter what anybody says, 2 doubleheaders in back-to-back weeks is not easy. It's just not. And I'll defend that anytime. But the Braves are finally, they did have an easy series. I think we all know that based on the score today. But at the same time, they've had a very long month. And, to tell you the truth, July wasn't, a walk in the park either. So, people are going to knock on that. I don't really believe it. But, and I know I've kind of rambled, Chris, so I appreciate you listening to me. But, again, you know, I look at that schedule, I look at that, and again, I look at today, I look at this series, I look at the lineup, I look at the differences, and the biggest difference to me is right here, bottom of the order, Vaughn Grissom, Michael Harris, and Robbie Grossman, who has gotten very overlooked, which I think needs to change. Vaughn Grissom, Michael Harris, great rookie players, glad they're getting the attention they deserve. Robbie Grossman, keep your eye on him. Keep your eye on him. He might just be the next Eddie Rosario this year. Lori Lee says, Kyle Wright is never mentioned in Cy Young talk. A shame. You know, I said the same thing about Austin Riley last year when it came to the MVP conversation. And ever since, I've just sort of departed from those kind of conversations. As much as I think Kyle does deserve to be in that conversation, I don't think it matters because the Braves aren't necessarily building one superstar or one or two superstars. Guys, we have a whole team of superstars. We have 2 guys right now that are being considered for the Rookie of the Year. Maybe 3 now. Spencer Strider, Vaughn Grissom, Michael Harris. So, you know, I look at it and I say we have enough superstars to where it doesn't matter who gets what individual award. I was happy when Freddie won the MVP back in 2020. I wish at least Riley would have gotten a little bit more consideration because I thought he had a great year last year. But I did a video last year called Austin Riley, the Economical MVP. And what I did was I compared the salaries of Austin Riley to the salaries of the other MVP candidates and the stats also. I'll take Austin Riley. I'll leave it at that. You ought to go check out that video if you want. Kyle Wright, very similar situation. But yeah, you know, at the end of the day, people are going to get their individual awards. I didn't think Bryce Harper was the MVP last year, you know, and, you know, that was probably a Lifetime Achievement Award. Other people have gotten it that way. I'm not going to knock anybody, but, again, I thought Austin Riley should have gotten at least a little bit more consideration. He was the most consistent hitter on the World Series team and kept us in a lot of tough games, won us a lot of tough games, and, you know, it just is what it is. Blake actually has a funny one. He says, back till 1.5 games back for the umpteenth time. Yeah, but I think this one's different. I really do. I think we're about to head into an easier month in September, an easier stretch, and I think we just might take first place. Nicholas says, hi. Jonathan says, what a game. He would be correct. Elijah Smith says, do you think AA uses the off day to try to advance negotiations with Dansby? If Dansby is smart, and I've said this before, if Dansby is smart, he will come back to Atlanta. And what I mean by that, he's in his hometown. It doesn't get any better than that. He is on a team who has a chance to win for the next however long he is signed for. And I really think we're in a good spot because, guys, we have one of the best ballparks. We have probably the best general manager in baseball. We have a guy who can literally win the World Series at the trade deadline. We have a great team. We have great young players. We have great older players, veteran players. And we have basically a chance for Dansby to be an elite player on a great team for many years to come. It's up to him, though. We'll see. I don't know what the situation is. I wish I knew more. I wish I could tell you more on Dansby, but unfortunately I can't. If I could, I promise you I would. By the way, guys, do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and of course, super chat if you want your question answered right now. I'll be glad to do it. That is how you get to the front of the line. Otherwise, I am going in order. Thank you all for tuning in. Obviously, an exciting day. The Braves win, I believe, 14-2. Kirby Yates a little bit of struggling at the tail end. Not too mad about that. He's still coming back from injury. If there's a time to struggle, it's when you're leading by 14 runs. So we will move past that. Jonathan says hello. Hey, how's it going? Nicholas says one big takeaway: Grissom has to stay. And we talked about that earlier. I definitely think if he's hitting right like he is right now, Grissom, you got to find a spot for him. As long as he is hitting. Similar to like Arcia. Arcia had a stretch where he was hitting everything for a while off the bench. And it's like you got to find a bats for this guy some kind of way. And they did. And I think as long as it's the case like that for Vaughn Grissom, he is still a young player. You can put him in left field. To tell you the truth, I think left field's an easier spot to learn than shortstop. I could be wrong, but that's my perspective on it. I think he would take left field. Look, Chipper Jones played left field coming up. Riley played a little left field. Freddie Freeman played third base for a little while, if you remember. So there's ways to go about this where the whole team benefits and Vaughn Grissom benefits as well. So I think you gotta find somewhere for him once Ozzie returns. By the way, guys, again, like the video. It really does help. Really do appreciate it. Thank you guys for tuning in. Steve Cash says, what's up, Braves country? What's up to you, Steve? Yasuki Knight says, nice win for the Braves today. Agreed. Joe Mixon says, it's a good game for the Braves. They also have a rested up bullpen for the Cardinals series. That is coming up. And, guys, the Cardinals are playing good baseball. Albert Pujols closing in on 700 homers. You know, if we're leading by 5 and Pujols comes up to the plate, I'll let him have a solo shot. I would really like to see him break that number. He's been phenomenal. He's been a phenomenal player for a number of years, but the past 10 games have been just outstanding for Albert Pujols. So we'll see him, and that is in St. Louis. We will see Albert play in St. Louis, I believe, the last time we will ever face Albert Pujols, if I'm not mistaken. Mark Perez says, how is Ozzie doing? Will he be starting a rehab assignment soon? The latest I got on Ozzie was that, yes, he would be starting a rehab assignment soon. I'm going to try to get the exact facts on that if I can. But, yeah, the latest that I saw, he was taking batting practice. That was 22 hours ago. One step closer to returning. But we will have to see where that goes from here. We will see. But as of right now, that's all we got is that he's taking batting practice. Thanks for that question, though. Jameson says, let's try to sweep the Cardinals and win that series. Yeah, I think we definitely got to win the series if we're going to make a move towards the Mets. They play tomorrow. We don't, so they do have a chance to move back to 2 games back. Not that big of a deal. Nothing we can do about it. We'll just have to see what happens. But it would be nice to beat the Cardinals 2 out of 3 or maybe even sweep for sure. Mark Perez, I keep hearing that the Mets have an easier schedule the rest of the way than the Braves do. How much truth is there to that statement? To tell you the truth, I haven't really looked at the Mets series, not in depth. I mean, I took a peek, but I didn't really look at it in depth. I'm more focused on the Braves. Here's the thing, Mark. I really thought August was the difficult part. And I don't know what the exact record is, but the Braves have played really well, excluding the Mets, during the month of August. I believe they won the Phillies series, at least split it. They didn't do so well against the Mets, but they won both games in Boston. They did well against Miami. Then they beat the Mets in the series from the 15th to the 18th. They won the series in Houston. They have swept the Pirates. So, I mean, outside of the first series with the Mets, I think they've done very well. And this was the hardest part of the schedule for the remainder of the year, from August 1st on. To me, I look at September, and I see a lot of beatable teams. The Rockies, Miami, Oakland, Seattle, Washington. And I think the Phillies are all beatable. So, personally, to me, I think September is easier than our August. And I'm not going to speak on whose schedule's easier. They're all pretty difficult. But what the Braves did in August, if they carry that momentum into September, there's no reason that it shouldn't continue. That's just me. There's a lot of beatable teams for the Braves. Let's see. Mark Perez, okay. Let's see. Lori Lee says, do you think Riley was hit in response to Grissom's hard but legal slide in second? Castro offended and mad? Possibly, but again, when you're up 14 runs, what does it really matter? I'm not into getting into fights with teams that aren't competitive. And for the Braves, they have business to deal with. I don't think they're in a position where they want to risk injury or risk anything like that by getting into anything like that. But it could have been in response to it. But it knocked in a run, so thank you. Mark Perez says, do you see Grossman playing left field for the rest of the season? Rosario and Contreras alternating the DH spot the rest of the season? I kind of just mentioned it, but I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a mixture of Rosario, Grossman, and even Vaughn Grissom, maybe Arcia or Heredia in that spot. Because again, those guys all got to find at bats any way they can. I think that could be the case. But right now, I'm leaning towards Vaughn Grissom, to tell you the truth. Jameson says, I actually watched the whole game on Google, the play-by-play like always. It was a great game today. Obviously, if you're a Braves fan, it's going to be a great game, but not so much a great game for the Pirates. Let's see. We also got to do this against good teams too. We got to beat good teams, and the Pirates right now just aren't. John Hatton says, Mets play the Rockies for 4 while we're playing St. Louis. Let's hope those Rockies in Colorado can steal some wins for New York. Yeah, let's hope so. Steve Cash says smash the like button. I'm going to agree with him, and I'm going to thank you for that free plug. Yeah, like the video. It really does help, and I really do appreciate it. Mark Perez asks, Tyler, if you were in Snit's shoes, how would you find a way to get Grissom's bat in the lineup every day when Ozzie returns? Well, I've been talking about it for a little while now. Again, I would attempt, and again, this is middle of the season. You don't really know how it's going to go. I looked at the minor league stats. There's no record of him playing in the outfield, but I would attempt to get Vaughn in the outfield, again, if he's hitting like this. And, there's other ways to do it, I guess. You have the DH, perspective. There's always a DH. But, again, I want Contreras' bat in the DH spot during the postseason. So, right now, I think the best option is to put Vaughn in left field. And you put him next to Michael Harris. You let Michael take the lead there. But, again, an outfield that looks like Vaughn Grissom, Michael Harris, and Ronald Acuna is not a bad one. And if it's just for this year, again, I'll take Vaughn Grissom in the outfield for his bat alone than risk putting Ozuna out there as a defensive liability anyway. That's me. Again, I don't know how it would translate, but that's where I'm at. And he's probably going to struggle at some point or another defensively. But then, if you put him in to start the game, you have Rosario and you have Grossman for late inning defense if you want it, much like Heredia gets right now. So, I think that's an option, and we can go from there. But you can find at-bats for these guys. And I think it's important that you give Vaughn Grissom, who is your future guy, in some form or fashion, regular at-bats. And to be honest with you, I think it's foreshadowing years to come, especially if Dansby does not resign, or it does resign, because your infield's pretty solid. Third base, locked up. Dansby would be locked up. Ozzie locked up. Olson locked up. There's nowhere in the infield for Vaughn Grissom to go anyway on the Atlanta Braves. So if he wants to be in Atlanta, if he doesn't want to get traded, then I look at left field as really the only option, because again, in the outfield, you have Ronald Acuna in right locked up, Michael Harris locked up in center. Really, left field's the only spot where you don't have anybody locked up for an extensive amount of time. The only one that you do beyond this year, if I'm not mistaken, is Eddie Rosario. So, and that's only for one more year. So there are options, but if I'm in Snit's shoes, I do everything I can to keep the guy who's hitting near 400, in the lineup. I don't think you can you can go without doing it. Again, there's so many different ways they can figure it out. If you don't want Ozzie to play every day, you can rotate those two guys. If you don't want Ozzie to play in the field, he can DH. Vaughn can play second. There's many different ways. But I would be curious to know if Vaughn could play outfield. That would be the question. If I could talk to, Eric Young right now, it's, hey, have you guys been hitting anything to Vaughn in the outfield, testing those waters? I would be curious to know that. And if I'm Snit, I'd be really curious to know that. Jorge says, hey, Tyler, Frank Fleming says the pain and misery of being a Mets fan never ends. And apparently neither does 2007. That's what I keep hearing him say. Yeah, again, Frank the Tank, a great follow if you're a Braves fan, not so much if you're a Mets fan. But again, a great follow if you're a Mets fan, just to see how Mets fans react to situations. And, you got to love it. I'd be curious to know if he hates Chipper Jones as much as he hates Blooper. That'd be what I'd be curious to know. Again, yeah, great follow. I mean, go follow him for sure. But also follow On Deck. Please do me that favor. If you're new, if you're just now watching, again, subscribe to the channel. You guys have been subscribing left and right, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you for that. Mark Perez says, do you think Soroka will replace Jake Odorizzi in the rotation when he is ready? We talked about this a little bit at the beginning of the stream. I did just a highlight on Mike Soroka's development, and I wanted to encourage you to be patient with Soroka. Don't just assume that he's going to be ready to go. Soroka has had ups and downs throughout the past 2 years for sure. Every time he takes a step forward, it seems like he takes 2 steps back. Last year, if you remember, he retore his Achilles. He had a great start in high A Rome this year, and then in AAA, not so much. He's got a long way to go in development. I still think it's at least 2 to 3 starts before he would ever make his way back as a starter. He could be in the pen. Don't exclude the idea that he could, see time in the bullpen for the remainder of this year. Anything he is able to give the Atlanta Braves this year in 2022 is additional. It is not what we are counting on. So again, anything he can give, we're excited about. In terms of Odorizzi, there's the idea that he just turned a corner during the rain delay last week. If that's the case, then we'll see. But one game against the Pirates is not exactly enough to convince me that Odorizzi's the guy for every 5th day. I need to see continued success, continued starts that are successful. I need to see that. And right now, I'm not seeing that. And look, there's more options than just Mike Soroka. And I'm not picking on Odorizzi here, but if Odorizzi is not the guy, again, more options than Mike Soroka. And we'll have to see. We'll have to wait and see. But for me, I look at Kyle Muller. This is the guy who was the minor league pitcher of the year. He's pitched great in Gwinnett. He had a great night coming back out of a hand injury, coming into Atlanta against the Marlins a couple of weeks ago and performed well. That gave the Braves the opportunity to rest their starters, hence why you've seen Max Fried pitch 8 innings, Kyle Wright pitch 8 innings, Charlie Morton pitched 6 innings the other day. That's why I think you're seeing that. And it's a lot to do with him, Bryce Elder, but there are options that outside of Mike Soroka. Mike Soroka is the guy that's going to catch the headlines, that's going to get the attention, and rightfully so. He's coming back from a huge injury. He was the ace for the Braves a few years ago, so naturally he's going to receive a lot of attention. But there are other good options that the Braves can go to for starting pitching. Jake Odorizzi's a pretty good option as a fifth starter. He's not your ace, but he can win ball games. He did it earlier this week against Pittsburgh. He may be a spot starter. For a while there when we had Ian Anderson, it was like we had a 6-man rotation. For a while there, it seemed like we had an 8-man rotation when you had, Bryce Elder and Kyle Muller in the rotation as well. It was a very fluid rotation. That could still be the case with Jake Odorizzi included if you throw in a Mike Soroka, a Kyle Muller, or a Bryce Elder to finish the year. When rosters expand, all that stuff, things are going to happen that surprise you. And one of those may be the case. If you go to a 6-man rotation, that could help. Everybody's concerned about Spencer Strider's arm. That could help you save his arm if you wanted to do that. It could help you rest your entire starting rotation as a whole. We will see how that develops. Right now, the important thing is that Soroka is healthy for next year. That's, in my opinion. Again, anything he gives you this year is added on to the expectation, not exactly expected. Thank you for that, Mark. I really do appreciate it. Jameson says, to be honest, I just love hearing the fact that Mike Soroka actually is pitching for our minor league teams. Yeah, that's a good feeling to have, for sure. You guys have been very supportive of Soroka. I saw the stats on the live stream with that. Great support for that. I really do appreciate it. I'm sure he does too. I know he knows the Braves country's behind him, and I can't wait to see him at the major league level once again. Traction Jackson says, can Grissom play outfield? Got to keep him in the lineup the way he's hitting. Yeah, we just talked about that, and I know I'm a little bit behind, so I apologize for that. I know you guys were commenting at the live stream, so we're answering as many of these as we can. We just answered this. I would expect he could play decent outfield. Not to say he can play great, but again, he's young, and I think he can adapt more so than someone who's played shortstop for the entire career like a Dansby Swanson for sure. Jameson says, okay, we need to keep Vaughn Grissom in the lineup. I'm going to skip down a little bit. We're getting a lot of the same comments. Michael Blasco, you're a new name, says Manfred always gives the Braves the easiest schedule, and baseball happens every year. Well, he did also give us the All-Star game at one point, and that didn't go so well. So I don't think he's exactly giving us the easiest schedule either. I don't think it's intentional. Let's see, we got a super chat from Nick Nodelman. No comment attached. If you had a comment, I would have answered your question now. But that being said, thank you for the super chat. I really do appreciate it. He does bring in a comment. All right, is Kyle Wright becoming the more important long-term lockup over Fried? Will the Braves spend over $200 million for the first time in 2023? I think so. And the reason, and this is in response to your second question, I definitely think they're going to spend more than $200 million. Especially if they lock up Dansby. They've already decided they're going to pay Riley $20 million a year. They're paying Acuna $10 million a year. They're going to try to lock up these guys. They may go get something big. If the Mets win the division, I really expect the Braves to go out and get something big in the starting pitching department. Or, I don't think they need any help offensively, but they may go get a couple bullpen pieces that, have a pretty penny attached. So I definitely think $200 million is possible. It may not happen, but I definitely think the aspirations are there to spend big money. In terms of Kyle Wright, I look at this. This is kind of my go-to. I go look at the timetable. And I see Kyle Wright doesn't need to be, his contract doesn't end. He's not a free agent until 2027. But Fried, on the other hand, is a free agent in 2025. So I made this so I could kind of easily gauge it. So to me, Fried, I know Wright's having a great year, but Fried's giving you 2 or 3 years of success. He won a World Series last year, and Kyle Wright was part of that, but Fried, without a doubt, was was the face there in the starting rotation. So I look at that, and I think that's the most important lockup right now outside of Dansby Swanson, to tell you the truth. I think there's a lot of guys that, are important to lock up, but right now, outside of Dansby Swanson, I look at Max Fried, and I say that's the guy we got to go get. Appreciate you guys tuning in, by the way. Appreciate that super chat for Nick Nodelman. Sorry, I had to get a drink of water, so excuse me. But yeah, I look at it and I say, as important as Kyle Wright is going to be in a few years, I look at Max Fried as my long-term lockup sooner rather than later. Kyle Wright, I think, can wait a couple more years. But if it could be that they both re-sign this year based on the finances right now. And, maybe the Braves want to get an idea as to what Liberty Media is going to be comfortable with, what they're going to be allotted, the money they're going to be allotted. And that might take a couple years before they're really comfortable in signing someone like Kyle Wright, who before this year hadn't really had much success. As much as I like Kyle Wright, as good of a year he's had, I really think Fried's the lockup before Kyle Wright. And it may be that, Fried's already gotten Fried's already gotten an offer and didn't like it. So we'll see. We really don't know how the negotiations go. I missed a super chat. I apologize for that. Wade Lamb, Braves World Series repeat. Do you think they're sleeping on us? I've actually heard a lot of people say that the Astros and the Braves may have a World Series repeat rematch, which I don't know how many times in history that's happened, but I'm sure it's not that many. I think the Braves very well could repeat. But it's, for me, and this is going to sound terrible when I say it, so forgive me, but for me, I don't think the most important thing here is that the Braves have a World Series repeat. The most important thing for someone like Alex Anthopoulos is that they have continued years of success. Okay, at the end of the day, it's a business, right? What's going to make you go to the park? Is it going to be a one-term title, or is it going to be a team that has a chance to win every year, right? I look at the Washington Nationals, a team who won in 2019. Okay, they won it all back in 2019. I look at at that team. I went to that park earlier this year. It's only been 2 or 3 years since they won it all. They still have the signs up. That ballpark is empty on a Friday night with the World Series champions in attendance. You know why? Because they're not competitive. And it's like that for so many teams. The Braves, on the other hand, have a chance to be the next dynasty in baseball. I did that video. It's on the channel. Go look at it. They have a chance to be that team and to continually drive money into the park via me and you. Now, that being said, it's not all about that, but money does drive business. It does drive, the team to be better. And if they can continue to be successful, they'll continue to make money. Therefore, they'll continue to play well. So I think, if they win the World Series, great this year, but I don't think it's going to be our last chance. As much as, there's excitement behind winning the World Series, as much as there should be excitement behind winning the World Series, I'm still excited about last year's World Series. There's more to the team than one World Series. That's why the Braves never really went all out back in 2018, 2019, because they were building this. They were building this monster that's going to be around for years to come. And I really do believe it. And, we'll see how it develops and how it goes this year. If the Braves enter the postseason, then they have a chance. But it's all about getting to the postseason year after year after year. And they're not, notice they didn't go all out at the trade deadline this year. That's because they believe in what they have. And they believe that the next few years they're going to show it off. So that's what I'll leave you with on that. Wade, thank you for that. Let me make sure I didn't miss any more Super Chats. Don't believe I did. Thank you for all the Super Chats. Again, by the way, we have one at the bottom that I got to get to. William Fulgham throws me an idea. Fried for 7 years, $155 million. What do I think? Let me do the math on that real quick. Sorry. 7 years, $155 million for Max Fried. It sounds good. So that would average out to about $22 million a year. I think I think if you can get him to take a discount, you do it. That being said, we're talking about the Braves spending $200 million, so I don't know that they're going to need to. That sounds fine to me, but again, I'm not AA. I'm not the guy who handles the finances and does all that. 7 years, I think, is a lot, but you can probably get him cheaper if you give him a longer deal. Maybe you don't want to commit to that. You give him 3 to 4. You give him 170. It's a lot of money to really promise and to dish out. As good as Fried is, and as much of a competitor as he is, which he is, by the way, as good as he is, I do question, that amount of money. But we will see. And I think 7 years is, like the chats, I can see the chat saying, 7 is a little bit long for a pitcher. You're talking about arms that can go out. Look at Mike Soroka, gone for 2 years, and that's for any player really. But I don't think you'll have any issue in Max Fried being Max Fried. And what I mean by that is, there's a lot of guys that get money and don't handle it well. A lot of guys that get money and don't show up to their work because they make bad decisions. I don't see that in Max Fried. I don't see that in Austin Riley. I don't see that in really any of the Braves outside of a few, but I don't see that really in any of the fundamental Braves right now. The guys that we're signing right now, Michael Harris, Austin Riley, I just don't. And I think the same about Max Fried. So if there's one guy that I think you can count on to be there in a competitive mindset year after year, is Max Fried. And I think we're going to try. But he does have roots in California. He does have friends in California now, so we will see. We will see. But that's where I'm at on it. I don't necessarily dislike the 7-year, $155 million. It is a long-term deal for a pitcher, which most people don't like. But the good news is, based on my timetable, is that we don't have to worry about it until 2025. So until then, we're going to enjoy Max Fried in a Braves uniform no matter what. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. We are still going here at On Deck. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and of course, hit the bell for notifications. And like William just did, like so many others have today, make sure you super chat. That is how I will answer your question right now. I'm just going to pick a random spot to go in the chat, and I'll start from there. We are going to start with... we're going to start with Michael Blasco. He says the fact they are actually counting the wins over the Pirates toward the standings is crazy and unfair. I assume Michael here is a Mets fan, and I really do. Let's ask him, would you count the Rocky series that you're likely going to win some games in towards the standings? Would you count, let's see, the Reds series that you just played? Those wins, would you count those? You swept them one game 10-2, one game 5-1, one game 6-2. Not very competitive. Would you count the Nationals? Would you count, and yeah, you played the Padres and the Yankees. I know those were tough, but would you count the Marlins series? At the end of the day, yes, you do, because they're Major League Baseball teams. The Pirates are having a tough go at it. So is the Reds. So are Miami's. There's a lot of teams that are having a rough go at it. But yeah, we're going to count those wins proudly, and we're going to count that sweep proudly. We beat the Pirates 7-0 all year long, and we beat the Mets 3 out of 4 last time we faced you. So we'll see you in October. Joe Mixon says, what about getting Ozzie in left field on the rehab assignment? I think that would be worse for Ozzie because it is an ankle injury. I think, you have to consider that in there. But at the same time, you want to think about where you can put him safely. I think second base is probably better for Ozzie. Remember, he hurt his ankle not in the field. He hurt his ankle at the plate. I was actually there that night. It was the same night Michael Harris hit his first homer in Nationals Park. So he did it at the plate on a weird mishap. I think he'd be fine at second base. And to be honest with you, I think he's earned the right to take that position back once he gets back. The real question is, how do we keep Vaughn Grissom in the lineup? And I think at that point, you make the rookie, all respect to Vaughn Grissom, you make the rookie take the spot in left field. That's just how I look at it. 1777 memorabilia has a lot of comments. I'm only going to read one because I got to move on, guy. He says 1.5 games out of first place now. Mets fans nervous. If you don't think they're nervous, again, go check out Frank the Tank, one of my favorite follows. Elijah Smith says, what did you think of Ben Ingram's subtle jab at Ozuna? I think Ben Ingram is one of the greatest broadcasters in the game today, and I make no ifs, ands, buts about it. I love listening to him on the radio. I like watching the games, but I also like 680 The Fan. I like the, Joe Simpson. I like hearing from him every now and again. Ben Ingram, I think, had the best call of the World Series win last year. I think he's a great broadcaster, and I've met him. Very nice guy. But you know what? He is what a broadcaster should be, and he did a great job. I'll just leave it at that. Thanks for the question, though. Mark Perez says, which NL East opponent do I hate the most? I don't hate anybody. I like to beat people. That's more so my mindset. I really can't stand the Dodgers, and I know they're not the NL East, but I cannot stand the Dodgers. They're the team that just makes me sick, mainly because their fans have been very rude to me in person at games. They've thrown stuff at me. They've cussed at me. They've done all that stuff. I've dealt with it all. But in the NL East, I really don't have a team that I can't stand. I have teams that I don't understand. The Mets are not one of them. The Mets are unlucky in a lot of different ways, and there is some truth to that. But the Phillies don't make good decisions. They just don't. They're not good with their money. They go get DHs to play in the outfield. They just don't make good decisions, and then they expect to win. I don't hate them, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The Nationals are irrelevant at the moment. I still think had we beat the Cardinals, we would have beat the Nationals, and we would have probably won the World Series in 2019. But I don't hate them. I don't hate Miami. Right now, I don't really hate any team in the National League East. In fact, I think the National League East is the most competitive division in baseball, and I think it is so underrated. I mean, think about it, guys. Again, the Nationals won in 2019. We won last year, okay? The Phillies have been competitive when Harper's in the lineup and you actually have a team, which they don't right now. They have a bunch of DHs. But the Marlins are on their way up. They were in the postseason back in 2020. We have a very good division, a very tough division with a lot of good pitching. And there's players that I like on all the teams. Look, I'm not the biggest Bryce Harper fan in the world, but if I'm flipping channels and he's at the plate with runners on, I'm probably going to keep watching. If Scherzer's pitching, I'm probably going to watch that. So it just depends. I don't hate any team, really. There's individual players I don't like, to tell you the truth. And really just players in specific moments. Like when Jose Urena hit Acuna, obviously, I think we all had our feelings about that. But, at the end of the day, I love the game of baseball. I love the fact that we have good players to watch and good teams to watch. I don't hate any NL East opponent. I respect the Mets because they have a very good team right now with a very good starting rotation. It's had a few, mishaps here and there, but they are a very good team. And if we beat them, then we need to do something with it for sure. Let's see. On the go with CeeLo says, I think we lose one of the catchers then next year because both will want to be the full-time player if we sign Dansby. I don't agree. I don't, because I think Contreras fits really well in the DH spot, and assuming that Ozuna is no more on the Braves next year, that's where I'm going to leave it. Assuming that that's the case, Contreras fits in the DH spot pretty well when he's not catching, though his catching ability has improved drastically since last year. I don't think he's going to complain, and the reason I say that, I look at the timetable, and I look at d'Arnaud's contract. He has it longer than next year. I believe he doesn't have to be re-signed until... He's not even on there. I got to fix that. Yeah, d'Arnaud, I don't believe is a free agent next year. Neither is Contreras. I don't think we lose either one. Not to mention you have Manny Pena in the minors right now. So I don't think that's going to be the case at all. Oh, I'm sorry. He's a free agent 2025, same time as Fried. I can see it on my screen. I can't see it on that screen up there. I don't think we're going to lose a catcher because, again, they're both signed through next year. They're both signed for multiple years. I think we got a great catching core. I think we have the best catching core in baseball right now, unexpectedly, because Contreras' development into this year, offensively and defensively, have been great. That being said, they are both on multi-year deals. They are both performing well, and I don't think either one of them are very egotistical. I think as long as they get at-bats, they'll probably share the wealth a little bit. And again, with the DH spot, you really open up to anything at that point. You really, you can do so many different things. You can give whoever you want at bats. They don't have to play a position necessarily. Again, that's an option for Vaughn Grissom, but I think it really fits the catching core well. I really do. Let's see. D. Barker asked a question everybody wants to know. What do they do with Ozuna? Is it time to cut losses or keep him? I'm going to be honest with you. We got... with Ozuna, I did a whole hour and a half long live stream the other day, and I really don't want to talk about this anymore. But to tell you the truth, with Ozuna, I don't know. And I think they're probably... Ken Rosenthal predicts that the Braves are going to release him. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now. but at the same time, it's a lot of money to walk away from. It really is. So I don't know. What I will say is this. I would not be surprised either way. I don't think he is necessarily in the plan. He hasn't played very much at all lately, and I think we can win without him. That's where I'll leave it. But we will see. Let's see. You guys have been very active tonight, and I really do appreciate it. Malik Brooks says, watching the Mets choke and we win the division this for a 5th consecutive year. Yeah, possibly. I definitely think we're going to win it. I feel good about the Braves' chances on winning the division. I'm not going to say I definitely think they're going to, but I feel good about it. We'll see. Jesse Lancaster brings up an interesting question. When is Ian coming back? And she's talking about Ian Anderson. Ian Anderson was sitting down in Gwinnett. He had a good appearance in Gwinnett, but I'm going to be honest with you. I really think that Ian Anderson needs long-term help because it's not his stuff. It's not that he can't strike out minor leaguers. The problem, and that's the difference between him and Soroka. Soroka's been gone 2 years. Ian Anderson's been pitching in the major leagues. This is not a rehab assignment. This is a go-get-right assignment. And for me, Ian Anderson, he had a lot of great performances last year. We're all aware of that in the World Series, NLCS. The problem with Ian Anderson, to me, is that he throws too many balls, he throws too many walks, and because of that, he throws too many pitches overall, which means he can only throw 4 innings, 5 innings. He can't go deep into games, which stretches the bullpen, and it ultimately stretches your entire pitching staff. So I think that's the fix he's got to make, and with his, he doesn't have a lot of overpowering stuff. He's a very fastball, changeup heavy guy, so I think they're going to work on him pretty in depth. I'm not saying he's not going to come back for the rest of the year. I don't think that at all. But I think that they're going to try to make sure he's right. Because here's the thing. Even if you never use Ian Anderson again, or even if he's not in your future plan, which I believe he is, but you don't want to trade Ian Anderson right now. You want to trade him when he's worth something, so you can get something back, right? So I think that they're definitely going to try to make sure he's right. I don't think he's in the trade, department. I think they're trying to get him right, trying to get him back and performing on an elite level, which he can. But right now, he just has struggled all year long. So I think it's more of a long-term fix. Chris Field says, if Soroka is on a rehab assignment, then he must have a deadline. I'm sure it can be Googled. The Braves will have to make a decision one way or the other. Yeah, but again, I think he's going to need 2 or 3 more appearances if he's going to be a starter. Maybe not for bullpen, but I definitely think he's going to need it if he's going to be a starter. You guys have been very active. I'm going to have to skip down a little bit. Remember, if your question didn't get answered, if I skipped over it, all you got to do is super chat. I'll answer it right now. Again, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay updated with everything going on here on deck, and of course, with your Atlanta Braves. Guys, we will be here until about 5:30, so for the next 15 minutes, maybe longer if I'm feeling like it, but for right now, that's where we're going to cut it off. You guys have been great tonight, and I'm going to answer as many of these as I can. Austin Nocho says, do you think the Braves will be able to sign Frieden Swanson this year or just one? Based on what everybody in Braves media has tweeted, the expectation for payroll is, which is one of the highest in baseball, I think they're going to be able to get both. I think Dansby's the priority because of the time left on his contract, which is this year. Fried could get done next year, could get done the year after if need be. But I think ultimately they're going to want to lock both of those up sooner the better, in my opinion. Michael Blasco, Mets signing Fried for sure. He ain't signing a discount. Sorry, Braves. He may not sign to the Braves, but I really don't see him going to the Mets. If he was to sign, and I know you're a Mets fan, if he was to sign somewhere, I think he would probably go to out west. Whether that be, he was in the Padres organization. Whether that be for them or whether it be for the Dodgers, that would be where I would guess he'd go if he had the choice, just because that's where home is for him. Though I really think he wants to be in Atlanta. I would be really surprised if it didn't happen. On the go with CeeLo, do you think that one of the catchers will want a trade, especially if there is no playing time other than every other day? No. And I think, catchers work this way. I spoke to Johnny Estrada about something similar to this a while back. If you don't know who Johnny Estrada is, he's an all-star catcher for the Braves back in 2004. Silver Slugger as well. Great player from back in the day, friend of mine. I asked him, anytime there's a catching question, I got, a ready-made go-to person. I asked him about this a while back, and he basically explained to me that catchers work in a veteran rookie, type of way. You raise up the younger catcher. That's what I think you're seeing here in d'Arnaud and Contreras, something similar to that. I think ultimately playing time is not really going to be that big of a factor because to me right now, William Contreras is doing well. He was an all-star this year. d'Arnaud is happy to be there in Atlanta. I think Contreras likes being in Atlanta. I think they both understand that they can win, much like everybody on the team. They both understand that this team is something special and they can win a lot in Atlanta. Money will come, but winning is something that does not happen on every team. Any team can pay a lot of money. The Los Angeles Angels haven't won anything in years, and they just paid Mike Trout a $400 million contract. Okay? Any team can pay a lot of money, but only some teams can win, and I think that is invaluable to a lot of players. Let me see. Malik Brooks, we're going to get healthier because we know Soroka or Albies are coming back this year. I think they're both coming back, but we'll see what they are when they get back. Jesse Lancaster, Houston, Atlanta lost a big free agent, and both have been fine. Crazy. Yeah, look, guys, one player does not make the team. It just doesn't. As much as, we focus on these players, as much as we love these players, one player never makes the team. The Braves are still winning without Freddie Freeman. And, Houston's doing just fine as well. I think that's a good point. We're talking about the impact of losing a Max Fried, which could have drastic impact. I'm sure it would. I think it would have more impact than losing Dansby Swanson, if I'm honest with you, because, again, you're talking about a guy who starts every fifth day, who covers a lot of innings, who is almost not necessarily a guaranteed win, but he's going to give you your best shot. So I think that's something that you got to consider. Again, free agent 2025. I hope that deal gets done. We'll see. We have a lot of time for that. It's going to come up again. I'm going to try to skip down a little bit and see how much we got. Let's see. Industry Streetwear says, I still say Soler is the one that got away. We have talked so much about Soler potentially coming back. We talked about it before the season. We talked about a potential trade if you wanted to give somebody a DH and get us signed Soler. We talked about it during the season at the trade deadline. Is he the one that got away? Possibly, but I don't know. Joe Reese brings up a good question. He says, if Atlanta releases Ozuna, do you think they will trade for Soler in the offseason? We did a video on that early this year. I was actually streaming, and I clipped it from the stream because it kind of gained a lot of traction, which means you guys were talking about it somewhere on Twitter or something. The idea Soler could be coming back. It was out there. It was rumored. And like anything, rumors don't always come to fruition. But what I will tell you is I actually did a video on it. I actually proposed the idea that Atlanta could trade for Jorge Soler. And I'm actually going to put a link to that in the chat for you. Who asked that? Sorry, a lot of guys are in the chat. I'm going to put a link to that in the chat just for you, whoever asked that question, because it is something that a lot of people asked. I actually gave a theory a while back, the idea that we could trade Ozuna to like a Miami for prospects, because that's all you're going to get for somebody like Ozuna. But at the same time, I didn't think it was really going to happen. I said it in that video. I didn't think it was really going to happen. But we've talked a lot about it. The idea that you could trade Ozuna, maybe get some prospects back, maybe not get anything back except some cash considerations, but offset that and then basically sign Soler was the idea. Now you'd have to trade for him, which I don't think you're going to be able to do. But we'll see. Miami might do it if you can, give them prospects. But again, I just don't see it. We had a lot of guys just tuning in. I know it. Guys, if you're just tuning in, rewatch the top of this because it's actually very, it's got a lot of information there. Rewatch it once this is over with, and I'm sure you'll be glad you did. Let's see. Smith the Great says, plus catchers work a lot. If it's one position other than pitching, this isn't going to play every game. It's catcher. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I remember like Brian McCann, David Ross, they switched every other day. So, I think that's a general, understanding that they're going to split duty there. I don't think anybody's going to sour. The relationship for the Braves is going to sour because of playing time. I really don't. I think the Braves value both catchers equally. Joe Reese, if Atlanta releases Ozuna, do you think they will trade for Soler? That's the question right there. That link is in there for you. Chris Casey says, me personally, I like the younger Matt Olson myself. I'm a lover of Freeman and Matt Olson. Look, I love Freddie Freeman. I've met him. He's super nice. He's super friendly. You know, all the bad publicity he got early in the year really made me upset. I didn't like it because this is a guy who we loved all the way up until he wasn't a Brave anymore. And then, you know, he didn't sign back and he got a lot of hate mail and all that. I think it was really unfortunate. You're not going to hear me criticize Freddie Freeman ever. I really think there's some suspicious stuff going with his agent there. Going to leave it there. But he was very nice for Atlanta. And I think he was a great player. He's a great person. And I hate that he left. That being said, I like Matt Olson too. I really do. I think he's great for the Braves. I think he's fit in well with the team, and he's home. So we'll see. Chris Kaysen says, Cole Duke says, who's our next prospect we need to be watching? I talked about him earlier, but I'm going to say it again. Kyle Muller is probably the guy who's on the precipice to make it next year. You know, I'm not saying he's going to necessarily be a starter next year, but it could happen. He was the minor league pitcher of the year, broke his non-throwing hand, but he's a guy to watch. Bryce Elder's a guy to watch on the pitching side of things. Position-wise, I don't know of anybody that big. I think most of them have come up at this point. But there's guys down there that are young that we don't know are going to be great just yet. I will tell you that one of my favorite guys, who I've talked about a lot on this channel, and you guys are probably sick of me talking about him on this channel, Cole Phillips. This is a guy I interviewed. He's 19 years old. He's 6'3". We drafted him this year. This guy's a great kid, and I think he's got a very bright future in an Atlanta Braves uniform. If you don't do anything else tonight, go watch this interview. Just get to know Cole, because I promise you, you're going to love him. You're going to want to see him at the major league level sooner rather than later, and I think he's got, a bright future in the city of Atlanta. Chris Casey says, great entertainment. Hope to see T. Redmond on Bally Sports in the next couple of years. Yeah, me too. if they want to call me, tell them I said to call me. Yeah, I'd love to do it, obviously. That's the dream. But I'm good here talking baseball with you guys as well. You guys make this happen, and I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you about baseball. A lot of other people want to do this, never really get it off the ground floor. Glad that we've been able to do that. Corey Carter, if you wanted to get Ozuna off the books and not pay any payroll, I think you would have someone package him with someone like a Strider or Contreras. But is it worth it? And the reason I ask that, I don't want to lose either one of those guys. Dang sure don't want to lose both of them. I look at it and I say, yeah, it's a lot of money to walk away from, but I'm not giving you Strider. Not happening. I might give you some of my lower level minor leaguers, but those are guys that I think can impact the team right now, and I really don't think money's that big of a factor, because this is money you expected to pay anyway, because he was signed. This is money that was coming anyway. I think it's expected. I think it's budgeted for. That being said, it's not necessarily something that they want to give up. They want to just walk away from $40 million, but at the same time, I don't think it's worth losing a young prospect. Not in any way, shape, or form. And it may be that they just ultimately go, you know what, forget it. I'm off. And they may keep him around. Who knows? If it's me, I walk away from it, I cut my losses, and I move on, if that's what they want to do. I don't try to trade anybody with them, unless it's somebody that you just don't believe in, but I just don't see it happening. Dale Thompson makes a bold prediction. He says the Braves are going to win the division by 3 games. Possibly. I'll be honest with you, I didn't expect the Braves to be 1.5 games back towards the tail end of August. I thought that maybe 2 or 3, maybe even 4. Didn't expect 1.5. I just wanted them to keep pace with the Mets. Just stay where you are. Don't get any worse, And now we're 1.5 games back, ready to make a move in September. You guys have been very active today. We're going to go a little longer than what I originally said. I know I said 5:30. We're going to go a little longer. If you want your question answered, it really does help me out. But also, just like the video, of course, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and all that good stuff. But also super chat. That is how you get your question answered. I also try to go a little bit more in depth, because you're paying money to me, no matter what it is. I do try to go a little bit more in depth and spend a little bit more time on any question you have, just because, again, you are donating to the channel, and we really do appreciate those for sure. Blake says, Tyler, I hope you get a job in the Atlanta market here soon enough. The area needs you. You know, I'm happy where I'm at. I love doing what I'm doing. But that being said, yeah, obviously if the opportunity came to work for the Braves, I would never turn that down. You know, but again, I love doing what I'm doing. I love being at home. And, you know, we're happy where we are. And the area might need me, but they'll have me at some point, I'm sure. Malik Brooks, how much do you think AA will give Kyle Wright? Now, that's a question I think you're going to re-ask me in a few years. I don't think we're going to know for a while. Again, you know, we don't know where the Liberty Media finances will be. If the Braves were to go on another World Series run, I mean, obviously the finances are in a completely different situation, you know. So I really don't know. But we will see. Again, I really think you're going to have to ask me that in a couple of years. Chris Cases says, I will definitely have to rewind to start go back to the top. If you want to rewind, you can. If you want to stay live with me, you can, whatever you want to do. But we always keep these up on the channel. We always do. And I think, you know, you need to keep an eye on them. You can always rewatch the live streams. But the top of the show is always kind of where I do my, you know, get my news out, and then I answer your question. So always, if you can get here early, get here early. That's the best thing I can tell you. And I know we're kind of starting early. It's only 5:30 right now, so I know we're starting early. But again, if you can get here early, get here early. Let's see. Kenneth Lewis says, what if Atlanta does not win the East? Do you believe the Braves can win it all this year, if that was to not happen? Look, the Nationals did it in 2019. I think the 2022 Braves are just as good as a team as the 2019 Nationals. The 2019 Nationals were getting whooped on by the 2019 Braves. So, yeah, I think there's a possibility there. Would I rather win the East and have a bye in the wild card round? Absolutely. But I think the Braves can win it. I think the Braves can win a wild card series. Look, guys, if you're in the postseason, you have a chance. You can do. I mean, we have seen guys do crazy things. Who would have ever thought Eddie Rosario would have been the NLCS MVP? Who would have ever thought Jorge Soler would have been the World Series MVP with all the talent that the Braves had last year? I mean, really, who would have ever thought that the Braves were going to win the World Series in September? Anybody? Not me. So anything can happen. It's all about getting there. Once you're in there, you got to play well. You got to play at your best. But once you're in there, anything can happen. Jesse Lancaster says, I would just wait at least to next year to release Ozuna because you never know. He might get hot here at the end of the season. I mean, possibly, but I don't know. The Ozuna situation, I've kind of done all I'm going to do on talking about it. It gets a lot of views. It gets a lot of attention, which, of course, helps the channel. I don't particularly like talking about it. It's not my life. He's not a friend of mine. He's not, I don't know him. I don't know his life. It's none of my business, and it always kind of causes some kind of controversy. But at the same time, it does have to be addressed. I don't know what's going to happen with Ozuna. I think the Braves have a number of ways they can go about it. I wouldn't be surprised if I woke up to the news tomorrow that Marcell Ozuna had been released. I wouldn't be surprised if he, heated up towards the end of the season and all of a sudden wins World Series MVP. Nothing would surprise me at this point with Marcell Ozuna. And we're just going to have to wait and see how it develops. It's going to be like watching a movie. We don't know where it's going. We'll see. Chris Fields says he's got a theory. He says Snit is actually a genius, and his quote-unquote questionable bullpen moves that lead to losses are all part of a master plan to keep the Braves hungry as the hunter and keep the Mets uncomfortable. It's kind of like what Bobby Cox used to do to get ejected, right? Maybe. I don't know. I think Snit has to kind of monitor the pen and use the pen in ways that it can be successful, but also ways to keep it healthy. And if you're not using guys, they become, not usable, and that's not necessarily the word for it, but they become kind of, just there, and you have to use everybody, and it helps when you have a lot of good arms, but there's sometimes that good arms don't do well. Kirby Yates, great arm, didn't have a great day today. Luckily, we were up by 14 runs, but, to be honest with you, if there's ever a time to give those guys the opportunity, it's those. And, a lot of people don't like the idea of being down by 2 runs in the 9th inning and throwing out Jackson Stevens. I like that idea. For one, Jackson Stevens has been just fine this year. For two, I don't want to throw out, A.J. Minter down by 2. Not unless we're in the postseason. I want to save those guys. You know, it is a marathon. A lot of people misconstrued that. It's not about the one game we're playing tonight. It's about this, ultimately the series, and then the month, and then, you know, and it gets bigger and bigger. But you have to maintain those guys. You have to keep them healthy. You have to keep them regular. You know, a lot of people, you know, kind of don't, you know, they don't like Kenley Jansen. I'll just say it. They don't like Kenley Jansen for whatever reason. You know, and you would think, based on what these people tell you, that Kenley Jansen is just terrible. Kenley Jansen is leading the league in saves entering today's play. So, you know, I'm not saying he's been perfect, because no, he hasn't been, but he's been pretty good, and he's had a really good career. I believe he's also 9th all-time in saves right now. So I think we'll take him in the back of the pen for sure. Thank you guys for tuning in again. You guys have been awesome tonight. Always are. Love talking baseball with you, so I really do appreciate it. Let's see. Smith the Great says, do you think Eddie Rosario is going to bounce back? Eddie Rosario was the guy that I thought we just absolutely had to go get that played on the team last year, right? And some people would disagree there. Some people thought it was Soler. Some people thought it was, you know, Jock Peterson. I look at it and I say, well, you know, sorry. There we go. There's the video I was looking for. I look at it and I say this. You know, Rosario has had a rough go at it this year. Not completely because of him. You know, some of it was due to, his eyesight. Some of it was due to, you know, coming back from that. And it's been a slow development. But, you know, Rosario got injured last year and had to come back from that, right? If you remember. He was hurt when he got to the Braves. And then all of a sudden he has this great NLCS. He has a great, you know, postseason altogether. He had a great September, you know, and it was just out of nowhere seemingly. It may not happen this year, but what I will tell you is that if there's anybody that can do it, I believe in Eddie Rosario. And look, I like Eddie Rosario. Eddie Rosario has all the respect in the world from his peers, I'm sure, based on last year alone. And I told you in the offseason last year, this past year, that if there was one guy that I thought could be consistent throughout 162, it was Eddie Rosario. I still think that. The problem is, for a large portion of that 162, he was not here. And, you know, he had to revamp and get back together. And, you know, we just haven't seen him break out. He's had these moments where it's like, okay, is he back? Is he going to, you know, nobody's going to hit 400. You know, and Eddie was so locked in last year. I still think he's battling back. I think, you know, in anything, you know, there's highs and lows. I think Eddie very well might heat up right at the postseason, and we'll have to wait and see. The good part about it, and this is just a positive I want you to consider, the good part about having someone like Eddie Rosario around is, one, the potential that he could pop off at any given time, but also you have options, right? Let's look at left field for a second. Let's just assume Ozzie Albies is back. Again, Eddie Rosario, Robbie Grossman, right? I thought they were going to platoon. Now Grossman's hitting very well. Then you throw in the idea of Vaughn Grissom. You throw in the idea of Guillermo Heredia. You have these options. If, you know, somebody's 0 for 4 one day, maybe don't put them in the next day. You have options, and going into the postseason, that's invaluable. Going into the postseason, especially if you were to play somebody like the Dodgers, where the guy who just absolutely mauled them last year in the postseason, you know, it comes up to the plate, you got to think in the back of their mind, they're a little fearful to pitch to him, you know? So it's just something to keep in mind. You know, I see the question there, Blake. I don't know where his stats are going to finish around. I don't know. I don't know when he's going to pop off. I don't know if he's going to pop off. I didn't know anything. I didn't know it was going to come out of nowhere last year, and that's what made it so cool, you know, is that you didn't expect him to be the guy, you know, but he was the guy, and he was awesome. You know, it could happen, you know, in September. We don't know. You know, that's the fun part about this game, is you never know who it's going to be to pop off. So I don't know exactly where Rosario is going to be at the end of the year. I assume he's going to be back on the Braves next year. He wants to be here. That's directly from him. He wants to be in Atlanta, and I think Atlanta wants him here if he's hitting well. And hopefully if he doesn't do it this year, he'll do it next. But we'll see how the season ends for him. Let's see. You guys have been so active tonight. I really do appreciate it. I'm going to fast forward a little bit and go to Danilo Ican. Tyler, who is our X Factor in the postseason? I like the Spanish question mark, by the way. Thanks for tuning in. Don't know where you're coming from, but I do appreciate it. Who is our X Factor in the postseason? I'm going to be honest with you, and it's something I've been talking about really the whole live stream. I think these guys. I think every last one of these guys. Michael Harris, obvious. Vaughn Grissom, pretty obvious if he's still hitting like he is. I think he could be an X Factor. Robbie Grossman, bottom of the order. These guys have just been... guys, I'm telling you, just keep an eye on the bottom of the order. It used to be, and when I say used to be, I mean earlier this season, it used to be that when the bottom of the order came up, you stopped watching. You walked away. That's when all right, bottom of the order's coming up, I'm going to bed, right? Now, it's so exciting to watch these guys because, again, they feed. They feed the top of the order. It's 2 outs and you got Robbie Grossman up, doesn't necessarily mean it's over with. And I can't say the same for the beginning of the year, right? So I think it's been great. I think, the mix of AA being able to go get guys like Robbie Grossman and then, the Braves being able to raise guys like Michael Harris and Vaughn Grissom is very exciting. But that would be my X Factor. Kevin Hagler says, we'd be a lot more forgiving if he was having an MVP caliber year. I don't disagree with that. I think the misconception is that people are just mad because he's having a bad year. That's not the case. But I try to speak from the Braves' perspective here. I try to look at their perspective. If let's just say, if Ronald Acuna had the same thing happen, right? He's on a 10-year deal, making $10 million a year. We got him on a great deal. He's a superstar. He's going to continue to be a superstar. You're not going to jump to release him. You got Ozuna on a 4-year deal. He's already had previous issues. He's a little too old to be doing this compared to some of his teammates. That's a little different. And in terms of an MVP caliber year, maybe. But at the same time, I look at it and I just... It's a mix, right? Like you said, if he was having the MVP caliber year, you might be a little bit more hesitant. But he's not. And for the Braves, it's like, okay, what good are you giving me? You're not giving me anything good on the field, really. You're not giving me anything good off the field either. So what advantage in this is it for me to keep you here? And that's what I think the misconception is. I think a lot of people just say, well, they just want to get rid of him because he's having a bad year. This is an excuse to do it. No, sure, but no, it's also the fact that he's, he is giving you off the field issues. He's giving you bad PR. He's giving you a lot of different bad things. And bad off the field and bad on the field, not exactly a good mix to keep you around, right? That's how I view it. If he was good for the clubhouse, look at Eddie Rosario. Eddie Rosario's not performing too great, but he's also making a lot less money. He's probably really good in the clubhouse. He's on his best behavior, So I think it's a mix of a few things. But it's not just that he's not performing well, and I think a lot of people forget that. KMS says AA has done an outstanding job assembling a great young team with no real weakness. Agreed. We give a lot of credit to AA here at On Deck. If you're a AA supporter, we like you here. But this guy is, I think, bang for your buck, the best general manager in baseball. There's other ones out there that are great, but what he has done in the past few years, the trade deadline he put together last year, there's just nobody. If I'm starting a team from scratch, I want this guy at the helm of it. He has been great for the Braves, and I completely agree with you. A lot of young talent with no weakness. Completely agree. Scrap Money, I love your name, by the way. I really do. He says we were down by 1, not 2. Not sure what you're referring to, but I'm going to move past it. Thank you for watching, though. Kevin Hagler, fans expect the bullpen to have a 0 ERA. Yeah, it's hard to manage a bullpen. You got to give everybody time. You got to let everybody pitch, but you got to find. A lot of times when you have 2-1 games back to back, and you're wondering why Kenley Jansen can't pitch a 4th day in a row, it's just a question you got to answer. So we'll see. Corey Carter says, I think Grossman could be a big bat for us in the playoffs. I agree. I completely agree. It's all about getting on base. I like him a lot. Tej says, Eddie's been great platoon next to Grossman. My only concern is what Grissom does when Ozzie comes back and who Grissom replaces if he keeps this up. I mentioned when Grissom first came to the major leagues, I mentioned that it could be that Vaughn doesn't stay. It could be that he does go back to the minors. It's whatever the best option for the team is at that moment. That being said, the way he's hitting right now, if that continues, that's not going to happen. But it's tough. I mentioned, I don't know if you saw the earlier part of the show, but I mentioned moving him to left field. Just go back and watch that. I did a whole thing on it. But right now, I think, it's going to be a tough decision, but it's a good problem to have. That's the best thing I can tell you. Proper Timothy says it's so crazy because he had the best eye for hitting in that postseason, and then he gets that surgery. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's how it goes sometimes. That's all I can really say. Let's see. Thank you guys for tuning in. A lot of you guys are active today. I really do appreciate it. Let's see. Oh, man. A lot of you guys give me long responses. All right, Corey Carter. All right, we're getting into the Ozuna thing. I'm only going to do this one more time. This is my last comment on Ozuna. Corey Carter says Ozuna's only redeemable trait is the long ball. That's it. If you need a pinch hitter, all or nothing batter, then that's him. I don't think the Braves are built like that anymore. In 2020, a lot of what their success was homers, but I don't think they're built like that anymore. I really don't. I look at the lineup, and I look at how the lineup has changed this year. What did we go get at the trade deadline in 2020 or 2021 rather? We went and got home run hitters, or a home run hitter in Jorge Soler, and then we got an on-base guy in Eddie Rosario, but who became just one of the best hitters, in the postseason. But I look at the team now. When we were at the trade deadline this year, we went and got Robbie Grossman, who is, he can hit for power, but he's an on-base guy who hit really well against lefties. And, I look at that and I say, well, I don't know. Personally, to me, I just don't think Ozuna really fits the team anymore. I don't think he's a part of the plan, but we'll see. Garrett Clemens brings up a good point. He says the Braves strike out a lot. We still rely on the long ball a lot. I agree with that, but I also think that the Braves, are capable of, outside of Ozuna, are capable of doing other things. And I think with the addition of Vaughn Grissom, with Vaughn Grissom, Michael Harris, and Robbie Grossman, I think that is changing still. Christopher Chaffee says, do you think the NL East will come down to the final Braves-Mets series? It very well could. You're referring to the series that's going to end or start in September, go into October. Those are 3 games. It could come down to that. The Braves are 1.5 games back. If they are still in this spot in a month, then yes, it will. But we will see. I think both of those teams have a pretty easy September, so it very well could. If the Braves can continue to win and can continue to put, the Mets in positions to where they have to win and the pressure's on. I mean, they didn't do well against the Yankees in this past series, so we'll see. That's all we really know. Proper Timothy says Ozuna's velocity off the bat is the point of not trading him. I don't agree. I really don't agree because, look, velocity off the bat's impressive, but Rosario hits the ball seemingly at 83 miles an hour and it goes over the fence. So if he's swinging for the fences and he's making great velocity, that's great. But if he's only doing it, 5% of the time, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Trinity Clark says, what's up, Tyler? I missed the entire series. I'm glad we swept them and the Mets lost again. Well, we just recapped the entire series, Trinity, so if you want, you can start by watching this live stream back. We're about to wrap it up, though, in about 3 minutes, so get your questions in. Gregory Broomfield says, Acuna's looking great at the plate, but not quite as electric. How many home runs do you think he'll end with? Yeah, here's the thing, right, with home runs, right? How many home runs did y'all think Albert Pujols was going to end with a week ago? And now he hits 6 in 10 games, and we're looking at it like, well, who knows? But I look at it, he's got 10 homers with, 300 at-bats. In 2019, he had 41 homers with 700 at-bats. He's got a lot less at-bats, just yearly. He was hurt at the beginning of the year, that kind of thing. He's had a lot less at-bats in general this year. But that being said, I don't know. He could pop off and hit 10 in 2 weeks. So I would say probably around 20 at most this year. I mean, he's coming back from injury. You can't hold that against him. But we will see. Joe Reese asks a good question. He says, when do you see Mike Soroka returning? I think he's got to have 2 or 3 more starts, but probably September. But I don't necessarily think it's going to be as a starter. I think it might be in the pen. But we'll see. Guys, we're going to wrap it up there. I got a lot to do tonight, but here's what we're going to do. Every question y'all are asking, I covered at the beginning of this live stream. So what I want you to do for me, go back and watch this entire live stream, the top of it, first 10 minutes or so. I covered everything you're asking. Mike Soroka, Vaughn Grissom, where to put him. I covered the entire Pirates series. I did all that stuff. It's in the beginning of the series, in the beginning of this live stream. So go check it out. It'll be on the channel whenever you want to watch it to your convenience. Go check it out. And, of course, we will be live here whenever we can. So do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, all that good stuff. It really does help the channel grow, and it really does help me out personally. So I really do appreciate it. We are looking to grow this channel, so make sure you share this with your friends. If they agree with me or not, whatever, I'll take it where I can get it. Make sure, again, to share this on social media with your friends, wherever. Just share. And, of course, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell for notifications so that you can stay up to date with everything going on here on deck. And, of course, with your Atlanta Braves. With that out of the way, guys, thank you so much. We will see you guys tomorrow.
And you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
So I got a call that said, this is Susan Bailey. And I said, yeah, but I'm sorry, I don't know a Susan Bailey. She goes, I'm Henry Aaron's secretary. And I went, yeah. She goes, Henry would like to talk to you. I said, yeah, okay. And he said, how would you like to fly down to Sarasota and look at our pictures? And I said, I would love to. He said, well, when can you do it? Jokingly, I said, tomorrow. He goes, okay, we'll take care of that. I'll meet you at the airport in Atlanta. Susan will have the arrangements. And then I get on a plane with Hank Aaron and fly down to Sarasota. He offers me a job, and I said, well, what team do you want me to manage? He goes, no, he wants you to be a pitching coach.
Hi, this is Phil Necro. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Most guys throw it this way, put the ball back in here, hands come around, and these two fingers come into the ball, and stiff wristed, no follow throw, and just a little up and goes in the bat. I hope there's no rotation on. The ball comes in there and doesn't bother. It doesn't never do the same thing twice.
This is Kyle Wright, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
One of my favorite moments for your career as of right now is actually this past week. It was a show of confidence by Brian Snicker. He left you in the game after bases were loaded. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, it was really cool. I went back and I saw that clip on Instagram several times. I'll be honest, I went back and I watched it numerous times. Kind of gave me chills a little bit. It was just really cool. I was kind of lost my command a little bit there. Still made some good pitches, but was definitely getting a little tired. So whenever he said, basically left me in the game, I felt like that kind of gave me what I needed to get me over the hump to make a good pitch, get a ground ball back to me, and get out of that inning.
This is Matt Olson. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond. Yeah, it's a pretty cool experience. Not everybody gets this opportunity to kind of set up their roots and be somewhere long term that they grew up and have family and friends. So it happened pretty quick there in spring training, and it was just an opportunity that my wife and I and my family thought that we couldn't pass up. So just jumped on it, and it's been a blast.
Says, Chief, why don't you race Ralph Garr? I said, okay. Said, Ralph Garr wants to race you too. So we started on the first base line on the outfield line. We started, bam, took off running. I beat him by 3 foot.
Mike Vaughn here. You're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
I'm Kelsey Wingert, and you're watching On Deck with Tyler Redmond.
Hey, this is Andrew Jones. You watch On Deck with Tyler.